This podcast is a proud member of the Unidentified Network.
Police in Las Vegas found themselves in the middle of a UFO mystery last month after
To us. Big eyes, they have big eyes.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal? Or?
One of my partners said they saw something fall out of the sky too, so that's why I'm kind of curious.
What? I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, look right at him.
Okay, hang on.
He's right.
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, good. He's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
Mythical Legends podcast with your host Daniel Barnett.
And welcome back to the Mythical Legends podcast. I'm here with my good buddy Chris Allsford. How are you, buddy?
Well, I didn't realise we were doing that today, so luckily.
How are you, mate?
I'm cool. How are you, bud?
Yes, mate. I am very, very well. Very, very glad to be back for this podcast as always. Now, today, we have a very, very good podcast, don't we, today?
I think so. It's going to be fun and informative and interesting. I'm looking forward to it.
As normal. Now, today, this is our first time with Chris hosting the fun fact of the week. So, in a minute, we will get going with that, and then what, Chris?
Nothing. Fun fact. Yeah, no problem.
And later today, we will also have the podcast of the week after we talk to an amazing guest. So, without further ado, I will now pass it on to our Mythical Legends co-host, Mr. Chris.
Right. Bear with me on this one. Fun fact of the week is about the Komodo dragon, which until 1910, when people described it, they were laughed at. It didn't exist. What a joke. And they described it as a giant lizard on the island of Komodo in Indonesia. Everybody laughed at them. All the scientists said. But Lieutenant Stein van Hansbroek caught and killed one and brought it back to America. But that wasn't good enough. W. Douglas Burden wanted live ones. So he took a ship, went there, and managed to bring back several dead bodies and 2 live ones where he put them in the Bronx Zoo. Are you wondering where I'm going with this? As a result of them being on display at the Bronx Zoo, Marion C. Cooper had a little chat with Burden to talk about this mystical island and went off and wrote King Kong.
Wow, that is cool. That is cool for a last-minute fact, just off the fly. That is amazing, Chris.
Full of them, mate. Do you want another one? No, for next week.
And say, mate, that is just amazing. And I say this every podcast to everyone. Make sure you keep a log of these facts because people think that there's only one way of researching when there's actually multiple ways of researching, and that is one way. Start collecting facts from these podcasts because it's a way for you to get information for future research. Now,
we could give you a test at the end of term as well.
Oh yes, we could do, and whoever wins gets to be the Mythical Legends co-host. Replace you. Yeah.
Anyone then?
Yeah, okay, so ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the podcast itself. Today we have a fabulous guest. He interviewed me about 2 weeks ago, and it was a fabulous interview. And unfortunately, I had to run after that interview, but for today, I'm here for longer. Now, me and Chris can't wait to interview this guy because I think it's going to be really, really interesting. Now, Chris, do you reckon I should bring this guy on, or do you reckon me and you just mess around?
We've waffled enough. Bring the poor guy on. He's sat being patient.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please welcome to the stage Mr. Barnaby Jones.
How's it going, guys? Thank you.
How are you, mate? How's things?
Oh, they're doing well, Busy as always.
Nice, mate, nice. Well, I reckon I'm going to dive straight in then, mate. So, when you're investigating out in the field, what are the first signs of Bigfoot that you look for? So, what do you go and look for signs of these creatures?
Anything big. So any kind of movement of animals through an area, game trails and stuff where branches are broken off at higher or wider areas, the sign that, something larger than a raccoon or, a deer or something has moved through that area. And granted, a lot of people don't realize that these things spend a lot of time on all fours as well. So, you can have big but down low as well. So that would be kind of the first thing that we look for. But before even that, I mean, we don't just go out and start searching in a random area. We have sighting reports or eyewitness accounts that specifically led us to that area. And we try and look for areas of recent sightings. So we follow up when we get a report as soon as possible. So hopefully when someone has seen something or had an encounter, they report it to us within a week or two that we can get out there right away, and hopefully the animal is still in the area. But there's plenty of sighting reports throughout the history of Wisconsin, and everywhere that we've been. And for the most part, we believe that these animals kind of stay in those same areas, so we're able to check out a specific area or a type of area. Like certain areas are very prone to have these. You want to make sure that there's water in the area, that there's a lot of food sources and other wildlife and stuff. So you got to have the right situation for these things to be.
Okay, cool. And so when you say food sources and that, just going off track a bit, what do you mean by that? So,
we've gotten a lot of reports that they eat like frogs or turtles and stuff like that. So when those things hatch out in the spring, we usually try and hit those areas as well, because we've gotten a lot of reports of when the frogs come out and stuff, that these creatures around following food sources. We did a lot of research up in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, which is famous for the hodag, of course, but they had these backwaters of this river coming through there, and at night these ducks and geese, when the water first melted in the spring, the ducks and geese would come down and roost in the backwaters there, and they were hearing that these creatures were coming down and what they believe is throwing rocks at them and trying to kill the ducks and geese to eat. So once the ducks and geese moved on from those areas, then so did these creatures, and we didn't get any more reports. We didn't hear anything. We didn't see anything, any other sign in that area. But that's the kind of stuff that we narrow in on. So we originally in Rhinelander, they had started hearing these loud howls and calls at night, and they actually recorded a few of them. And they sent that into another reporting office here in Wisconsin, and we got a hold of the report and ended up going down within a week or two of the initial report and the sighting, and we were able to find footprints and stick structures and actually thermal image of these creatures at the time. So
impressive. Wow, that's cool. Well, I'll pass it on to you, Chris.
Yeah, so we got the normal question, but I'm actually really interested in your answer to this, because you've got quite a diverse investigations that you carry out. So the simple question is, what's your opinions on this animal, on this Bigfoot? Flesh and blood or paranormal? And by paranormal, I mean ghost-like, not just super normal. Where do you lie with that?
Well, as far as Bigfoot goes, I always try and relate all these things to my personal experiences. And I have had some very weird experiences while out Bigfooting. But that doesn't mean that those are necessarily associated with Bigfoot. If you're out in the woods hunting deer and a Bigfoot walks by, you don't associate that with deer, right? You're not saying, oh, that was a deer, obviously. So when you're out there Bigfooting, you have to keep that in mind and, let the evidence guide you and not be biased by it. So in my experiences, I would have to say these things are just a normal flesh and blood creature. I tend to believe more that they're of more the Native American side, so more of a human native kind of creature than more animal. So I believe that they have like culture and things like that. That because we hear a lot of the stories over in the U.S. and of the natives actually trading with them and having them at their powwows and their fires and stuff back in history. So if they can do that, they are obviously a lot more intelligent than the typical animal that you would find out in the woods. And the fact that they're evading us so readily whenever you try and go out and get pictures or trail cameras and stuff, they have to be a very highly intelligent animal. But as far as like a lot of the paranormal stuff of the disappearing or that kind of stuff, I mean, I believe very much along the lines of like Matt Pruitt. If you've heard of him or read his books and stuff, he talks about these things being ambush predators and being able to just walk off the side of the road and disappear because they have to. Any kind of predator, any kind of animal that hunts or attacks other animals has to be able to disappear and blend in very easily. You see that all throughout the animal kingdom. And I think that's where a lot of this supernatural or paranormal stuff kind of falls under when you're talking about these animals.
And say, so you brought up the Native American element, and say just last week we had a Native American from the Quinault tribe in Washington on the podcast. Say, so if you dive in a little bit deeper then for me, so what have you heard stories from the Native Americans over in the US? Now, it's very, very different to how it works here in the UK because you guys actually have those legends with the actual native people. So could you dive a little bit deeper into some of the stories that you've heard from the Native Americans?
Sure, and obviously these are all coming secondhand. I'm not native. I don't have any stories of my own and stuff. So, but like I do host a weekly podcast, Monsters on the Edge, and I've interviewed a lot of natives. I've interviewed a lot of people who have worked with them and stuff. So that's where I get this information. But there's stories going back all the way to all the way through Native Americans in the U.S. and they had trading relationships with these beings where they would come in, they would trade food, they would have them sit around their campfires and stuff or their powwows and stuff. They would come in and listen. They were able to communicate with them at one time. Some of these tribes and stuff were able to, but there seems like there was some sort of falling out between them. You hear a lot of the stories of the males taking the female humans and running off with them or the children, and this either cannibalistic or mating or whatever it happened to be, and the natives kind of got tired of that, and so they said either stop doing that or we're gonna go to war against you. And there's a lot of stories in the US, specifically in the Midwest here, of these red-haired giants. And the natives like basically went to war against the red-haired giants. And I don't know necessarily if the red-haired giants and Bigfoot are one and the same, but there is a lot of these stories. The red-haired giants were like copper miners and stuff, so they would actually mine things a lot here in the Midwest, in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio, this area. There's a lot of myth and stuff behind that. The other thing is when the white man came over here to the US, the relationship between the natives and the Bigfoots kind of changed as well, because they saw that the way that the white man was treating the natives and the stuff that they were doing to them, and they kind of, at that point, the natives said, we don't want you involved in this, to the Bigfoots. And the Bigfoots kind of went up to the mountains and avoided humans. That's why some of them believe that they don't use fire, because fire is how the white man tracked down the Native Americans a lot of the times as well. So again, I don't know for sure. These are not my stories, but this is some of the stuff that has been told on my show and stuff from people who have worked with them and interviewed them, and as well as from them. So,
yeah. So Well, the
Well,
suspicion has always been there, hasn't it? When White Man turned up with the thunder sticks and started hurting everybody. Yeah.
so
Yep.
that's really really fascinating to hear that, because Chris, you can kind of back me up here. We don't really hear a lot of that unless obviously we're interviewing someone that is a Native American or has heard of the Native American stories. We don't really hear that over the UK, do we, Chris?
No, but it's interesting what you said there about the where they went to war, and I don't know if this is the area you're in, where they got them trapped in a cave and lit a fire in the cave entrance, smoked them out, and now the skeletons and the skulls are in the Smithsonian. Is that your region?
I don't know. I'm familiar with the story. I don't know where that story supposedly took place.
Yeah,
So,
but it's that kind of thing. Where, yeah,
exactly. Yeah, they were tired of them taking the women and the children and kidnapping their people and stuff. So they followed them back to their cave and basically trapped them in there and burned it up and killed them in there.
yeah,
Yeah.
Wow. And so kind of switching topics now. And so throughout your research, mate, in the United States, what are the most popular signs of Bigfoot? So I know that here in the UK we have a couple of things that you can specifically look for that are markers for Bigfoot, or Bigfoot is like people say that they make this. Now, obviously, we won't know for sure, but do you guys have any specific things around your area that you go, this is more than likely, if you see this, it's more than likely Bigfoot?
I think they're pretty much the same as what you guys got over there. I mean, we look for footprints, we look for knuckle prints, hand prints, that kind of thing. But a lot of people don't realize how difficult it is to find that kind of stuff out in the woods because of the substrate. I mean, you have so much leaf litter and other things on the forest floor. You don't find just basic dirt. So you have to kind of look around like watering areas or muddy spots and stuff to try and find that. But besides that, even just around the US, there's different things. Like up here in Wisconsin and upper Michigan and stuff, we see a lot of very weird tree structures. So again, a lot of that stuff I kind of write off as being natural deadfall, things of that nature. But when you find things that are very intertwined, where something has literally woven it together, especially off deep in the woods on either private property or someplace where there isn't humans. You know, a lot of people walk down these trails and they see something right off the trail and they go, oh, look, Bigfoot made that. Well, you know, do you know how many people walk down that trail every single day? And what are the odds that somebody put it there? The other thing that I like to look at with those is if you took a tarp and you threw it over the top of it, would it make a shelter? And if the answer is yes, it's probably some sort of bushcraft, and it's probably made by a person. Because I don't believe that, you know, these structures that we associate with Bigfoot are necessarily a shelter of any kind. I think that they're more symbols of a clan in the area, or water's this way, or people are that way, or something of that nature. Now, when we went down to Kentucky and Tennessee, though, they also have a lot of stone structures. And we don't have a lot of that up here in Wisconsin. So this was something that I wasn't really familiar with. But when we went down there and started working with some of the researchers down there, they're finding these large piles of rocks. And I don't mean like we see stone stacks and stuff up here of hikers and stuff, or marking a path to a deer stand or something where people are out hunting. But I'm talking about rocks that, you know, I couldn't pick up with the guy that I was with. So these are large rocks stacked up, and it was very interesting. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Turtle Man from Animal Planet.
yeah.
Yeah. So we got to go down and go Bigfooting with him because he's actually had his own Bigfoot encounters. He's seen him on a couple occasions and stuff. And that guy, as fun and, you know, crazy as he is on TV, he is very knowledgeable. He is very smart. He is an expert tracker. And we learned so much from him the day that we got to go down and hang out with him and do Bigfooting. And he showed you things like, you know, like moss and dirt on rocks, right? So if you pick up a rock that's been in the ground for any length of time, there's dirt on the bottom. It's wet. It's, you know, muddy dirt on there. But if you find that laying on a trail or something and it looks like that, but there's no hole, something obviously put it there. right?
Mm.
And the same goes for if you're finding these rock stacks where, you know, it's all clean under there. So something has literally picked that up and stacked them. So it's really interesting that, you know, these rocks didn't go there, and like finding them sitting like built up on logs where you have them sitting on top of something else that had fallen there. You don't find a stone sitting on top of a log after the tree has fallen. It just doesn't happen. So very interesting, compelling stuff there as well. So.
Mm.
So that's really, really interesting. I think the only place where I've heard where it's kind of stones stacking on stones is there was an Expedition Bigfoot episode in season 3 where they found kind of little, or it might be even season 2, where like little stone stacked on stone. And say, I know that when children go to the beach, or when families go to, say we have a beach called Kilf here, where you've got kind of, it's just rocks, and there's like these little stacks of rocks. But when you place it on places where no one goes, you go, that why would someone come all the way to that point to build that little stack? No, impossible. So that's where it's really interesting, and say especially a big rock on a tree. What?
Yeah, I've seen a few of those videos and photos where there's some rock that's not something that me and you can pick up easily, like, but it's on a fallen tree. Yeah, no explanation how it got there.
You talking me and you, Chris, or yourself and Barnaby?
I'd lift you up with the rock, but
and say I think that's where kind of I'll ask you the question of what do you reckon that means? What do you reckon a log with a stone means?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I can tell you, we did some research on the stick structures here in actually Upper Michigan and in Rhinelander. So we did a comparison of private property versus public property. And what we found was these teepee structures that were on the private property. We mapped out every single stick that was in, every single stick that was in that structure. And we mapped out every game trail that was in that area. And when you walk in on the main game trail to where this structure was, what we would find is, in some cases, we would find a large X to the side of it. And then we would find this teepee. And the teepee, every stick of that teepee would correlate with one of the game trails that led off of this little hub.
Wow.
So we ended up following these sticks, following this map basically, and it led us to the next stick structure. Now, when we tried to find this same pattern in Rhinelander, which is all public property, and we found very similar structures there, this did not match up. So the structures did not correlate with the patterns on the ground. We were not able to follow it as a map to the next structure. So whether or not this was something that is specific to the Bigfoot in Upper Michigan or that tribe or what it was used for there, I have no idea. But I do know that other instances we were not able to replicate that findings. But on this specific property, it was that 2 or 3 of the structures on the property actually matched up exactly with the game trails in that area.
It's almost like road signs.
Correct.
It's almost like when it like right this way is your house, this way is your house. It's almost like that, and that is really intriguing. Chris, I don't know about you, I've never heard of anyone that's done that before.
No, it's yes, and it's almost, I don't know. It's
intriguing.
It's I don't know what to say about it because I never thought of that.
It's I'm kind of stumped on that one because that's something that not many people find. So congratulations to you guys. So we are going to take a very, very short break and put on the most funniest advertisement. I don't get this advertisement, but it's quite funny. And we'll be back with a new topic after the break.
For half an hour on Saturday afternoons and for a quarter of an hour on Wednesday evenings. The world's only show about hard science, weird shit, and surreality. And it's co-presented by an anthropomorphic chicken. Be there or be square.
I'm so sorry. We have to show that every week, and I keep thinking, what is this guest going to think this week?
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was great. I am excited to hear what the anthropomorphic chicken has to say this week. I think riveting, just riveting.
Oh, it's funny. That is funny. So, Chris, I will hand the first question back to you, bud.
What? How did you get into all this? What was the catalyst that made you think, I don't need to work 9 to 5. I need to work at night in the forest looking for cryptids and paranormal activity? Where did it all start?
I have lived a very weird life to begin with besides this, and this is just the next step of that. So I've always been interested in cryptids. I've always been interested in paranormal all the way back to elementary school. I was investigating the chupacabra back when, it was the height of its stuff going on down in Puerto Rico and that. I became a professional wrestler for 10 years here in Wisconsin and traveled around doing that. After I did that, I owned a Halloween haunted house attraction for 7 years in an actual haunted building and had numerous encounters, numerous things. I actually had a 6-foot fake tree thrown at me one night at the haunt by paranormal, not by a person.
Right.
Very weird. Still my most bizarre paranormal experience. And then after that, then I started doing this. Again, always interested in the paranormal and stuff and Bigfoot and all that, but I never realized that these creatures were all over the U.S., right? I thought that they were in the Pacific Northwest or the Yeti up in the Himalayas and stuff. And there's a place, that 80-acre property that I was mentioning earlier up in Upper Michigan. It's called the Hayden Adventure. And it's 80 acres of private hunting property owned by Craig and Barb Salk, and they had trail cameras all over the property. And in 2012, they got a series of 3 game camera photos. The middle one shows what a lot of people believe is this Bigfoot creature. So they sent it into Finding Bigfoot. Finding Bigfoot came out, did an episode. People wanted to see the evidence on the property, so they opened up the property as the Hayden Adventure. And in 2019, myself and my mom actually took a trip up here to the property to meet Craig and Barb and see the evidence and take the tour and stuff. And I realized that all this stuff was actually right here in my own backyard. And by that, I learned of Linda Godfrey, who wrote all the books about the Beast of Bray Road here in Wisconsin. And I started reading her books, which led me to Mary Sutherland and Linda Godfrey, who wrote a lot of books about the Burlington Woods, which is down in lower Wisconsin, right near Bray Road and Elkhorn and stuff, where all the Beast of Bray Road and stuff happened. And so one night I took my friend and we went down to to the Burlington Woods and had what I believe is my first Bigfoot encounter, the very first time that we went out. And we were sitting in the parking lot of this woods area and shining my flashlight along the tree line on this ridge. And this branch basically pops up like something had been pushing it down, looking out at us. And we had heard stuff moving around over there, something big in that. So we're like, what's over there? So I shine the light. This thing pops up. No idea what it was. So a couple weeks later, I took a group of people, friends and stuff, back down there to investigate, actually go into the woods and look around. And we ended up finding barefoot footprints right where that tree was. and something had come out, stood at the tree, and moved back into the woods from there. And we ended up getting thermal image of these creatures that night. We had whistles throughout the day of these creatures. We got growled at while we were in the woods, and we had a massive branch ripped off the tree, all the very second time that we ever down there. So that's how we started CAPS. From researching down there. And it was just a very intense day of all these things. We believe there was 2 of them in there at the time, and they were not happy that we were in there. So,
and say I keep sitting back here and listening. Every time I do a podcast, I'm really intrigued to what people have encountered. But there's one thing I cannot wait to say, and it'll come soon, because both me and Chris had the same sighting at the same time, and there may have been some similarities that I would like to share with you, but I'm not going to until I can. But once I can talk about it, there was some very, very striking similarities between your encounter and our encounter. But yeah, that is fantastic, and that's an amazing way to get into doing podcasting and doing things like research and things like that. So, kind of on the same story, then, what then made you start your podcast? What made you start wanting to talk to people about Bigfoot?
So when we had all this stuff happen down in Burlington, I had one GoPro, and that's what we were filming this stuff with, because we were going down there because I wanted to know. We weren't there to make a show. We weren't there to, do anything else. We were just there to document what was going on for ourselves. And when we started getting all this evidence, the tree break, the thermal imaging, all the stuff that we had happen, and consecutively, when we went back down week after week after week to the same spot to find all this stuff, we gathered up all this evidence, and we said, well, this is really interesting. Like, what can we do with it? So we started CAPS, Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society. There's about 10 people on our team now, and we do everything from Bigfoot, UFOs, aliens, metaphysical, paranormal, cryptids, you name it. We travel all over and look for this stuff all over Wisconsin and beyond. And I said, well, we should put this out as like a documentary on YouTube. So we made that first documentary, and that led us to going, well, what else is there? Because the whole reason we started in Burlington was because it basically is what John Keel referred to as a window area. There was Bigfoot. There's a serpent mound is where all this stuff basically took place. So a Native American serpent mound is where this woods was. There's UFO activity. There's fairy activity in this woods. And there's also supposed to be a shamanic burial site. So all this stuff in this one place is leading to all this stuff happening there. So this got us thinking about like urban legends, and, are the places that are urban legends because of something that happened there? Or are they high in energy or portals or something, and that's why things happen there? So we started going around to different locations around Wisconsin and researching these urban legend sites. So we started making our second episode or our documentary then. And we actually had been filming a bunch of stuff at my haunted house when we were doing paranormal research and stuff there because it was haunted. So we put out we took all the old footage of that and made our second episode. And our third episode that we released was the Urban Legends one. So this is what kind of started CAPS and started rolling. And now we've got everything from Bigfoot, paranormal, UFO episodes. I was out to Skinwalker Ranch, so we have episodes on that. I mean, you name it. We got Gettysburg, all kinds of cool stuff that we've done on our YouTube channel. But while we're doing this, we thought there's so much more stuff that's going on that we can't cram into these hour-long episodes. So I started Whispers from the Dark, which was the CAPS podcast. And we started using that as like a supplemental show for everything that we wanted to talk about and research and that wasn't part of these. And Whispers from the Dark led me to hosting another show on another network. And that's when I had Doug Hychek on my show, who is the promoter of the Untold Radio Network. And I'm going to be so mad when he yells at me. the show, Monster Quest. There we go. He did Monster Quest, and so he came on my show and he goes, you should come work for my network. I said, well, if you pay me, and he said, well, I'll pay you. I said, oh, all right then. So now I have the 2 shows on his network. Monday I do Monsters on the Edge, and on Thursdays I do the Paranormal Spectrum. So plus all the other stuff with caps and library presentations and conventions and research, and I'm very busy.
Nice.
Wow. I will throw the torch back to you, Mr. Allsford.
Yeah, you've already touched on GoPro. I do the same. Stick a GoPro on my cap and forget about it. But what is the most important thing you think for anybody getting into this hobby, this rabbit hole, this bottomless pit of despair? And
confirmation bias is terrible. I think that's your main thing. Like I said, if you go out in the woods and you're looking for Bigfoot and you see an orb go by, why do you think that orb has anything to do with Bigfoot? And I've seen a blue basketball size orb out in the woods while Bigfooting. Now, I don't necessarily believe that has anything to do with Bigfoot. I think that I was out there doing that and I saw this orb. I think that's very important, is to let the evidence guide your research, not your research guide the evidence. The other thing is, back to the GoPro thing, as soon as you get somewhere, even before you're out of that car, I run a GoPro with a battery pack, so an external battery pack on it, and I run it on the dashboard of my car. So when you're driving to an area to research, you have that GoPro running, because as soon as you get out of the car, you're going to hear knocks or a howl or something, and you're not going to be ready. So if you have that GoPro running, anything that crosses the road in front of you, you're going to get on the GoPro. It's like another dash cam. I have a dash cam too, by the way. But you have the GoPro running, and as soon as you get out, you have that thing already strapped to your head mount, and you can put it on, strap the battery pack in your pocket, and you're out the door. You're ready to go, because you never know what's going to happen as soon as you get to a location. And we've had that numerous accounts. And the other thing is redundancy is amazing. We have missed evidence because we thought a camera was running and the battery had died in it. So now when we go out, everyone on my team that goes out Bigfooting at night or any kind of cryptid research or anything has 2 cameras, a GoPro and then a night vision camera. So you have 2 cameras on you at all times, one for seeing in the dark and one for recording audio and stuff, as well as any kind of flashlight and stuff that you'll see at night with the regular GoPro. But with 2 people out, you have 4 cameras running, and the odds of something being captured on one of those cameras are a lot better than when you're both trying to look through a thermal imager and you're standing behind the other person and your chest camera is blocked by that person. And unbeknownst to you, that was the only camera that was recording. So yeah, we have lived and learned on several occasions going, oh my gosh, did you see that? Nope, the camera was facing your back.
So. And say, mate, I kind of, between when we did our podcast and now, I've kind of done a lot of research on you, but I think we've gone into some and I think we've gone into some amazing different subjects today, which has been fantastic. So it leaves my final question for you, and this is where I'll say I do have your links.
That's because I sent them to you.
And just to everyone out there on the Mythical Legends podcast, and our co-host Chris Allsford, I did a live podcast with Barnaby about 2 weeks ago, and I forgot to send him a link. And then No. I said, send me your bio and your picture and any links that you want in the show notes. And you said, oh, I don't have any links.
And I went online and found links of yours that you just didn't have or didn't. And then at the end of the show, I say, okay, well, tell me where you're going to be. Tell us where you can find you. And you proceed to rattle off several links that did not ever come up in the conversation of send me your links. So when prompted to come on your show, I promptly sent you my full bio picture and a list of links.
Well, I must say that is very true. That is very true. When I was confirming to come on this podcast, I'm going to be completely honest. I was lying in bed and I just woken up, so I was like, yeah, whatever. I'll come on the podcast. So, mate, where can people find you, and where are you going to be this year in 2025?
Oh, absolutely. You can find us at Wisconsin, the entire state spelled out. CAPS, wisconsincaps.com. All of our links, all of our stuff is on there. You can find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. All at Wisconsin Caps as well. Instagram is WI Caps. You can also join us on Patreon and watch our bi-monthly documentaries early on there as well before they premiere on YouTube. I'm going to be at several conventions and stuff this year. The big one is the one that we're actually hosting this year. It is the Wisconsin Cryptids, Anomalies, and Paranormal Convention, May 9th, 10th, and 11th in Appleton, Wisconsin. And if you cannot come out in person, we are also live streaming all of our guest speakers that day for just $5. So you can get a virtual ticket and join in the convention from no matter where you are. Even if you can't do it live, you'll get a link. And after the convention airs, you can tune in and watch it at your leisure or rewatch any of our speakers and stuff. You will also get a link for our brand new documentary that will be premiered at that event, which is The Hairy Man of Dairyland, Wisconsin's Bigfoot. So it's a feature-length documentary all about Bigfoot in Wisconsin because you don't hear a lot about it, and there's a lot of stuff going on here. So it features a lot of research, firsthand stories, evidence, and delves into the people, places, and things that have been found here in Wisconsin. So,
and underneath in the podcast description will be all of Barnaby's links that he has sent me, just to clarify to him right now on the podcast. So, Chris, is there anything else you'd like to say before we get going with our podcast of the week?
Well, first, thanks for coming. Thanks for being here. Second, thanks for all the extra links that I've now got to add to my watch list. It's one thing about this hobby is your watch list grows. It's like a dictionary. But no, thanks, Barnaby. It's been great. It's been fantastic.
So, mate, is there anything else you'd like to say before you see our amazing podcast of the week, and even possibly send me a link to your podcast for me to get your podcast logo, because I may have you as our future podcast of the week.
I can send you that. Yep. All the links are on my website. There are several other people on my team that host podcasts as well. There's Red Road Paranormal, which is Chris and Christina, or Rez and Christina. They do that one, and it's all a lot of Native American looking at topics. Rez is our Native American on our team, and they do talk to different other Native Americans and look at a lot of the paranormal and cryptids from that view, and as well as Soul Flight, which is Stephanie Lynn, our medium, hosts that. So no matter what you're looking for from paranormal, Bigfoot, or cryptid, on our website, we have the links to all of those as well. So
brilliant. Amazing. Well, mate, it's been great having you. And now we are going to get going with the podcast of the week. Let's go. And this week's podcast of the week is The Agents of the Unexplained by Bill Rigby. Bill is a very, very good friend of mine and Chris's. And Bill will also be the organizer of the Penn, Ohio Bigfoot Conference this year, which he will be hosting later this month. Now, Chris, how was that podcast?
That's awesome. It's good. Like a little bit of fresh eyes on some aspects of what we've done. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's really, really good to get people from all different areas, and that's a new area we haven't covered yet.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think going back to some of the Native American stuff that Barnaby told us, I think that was really, really interesting to hear about some more Native American stories. So we had Harvest Moon on last week, and I think it was great to hear more. So, Chris, is there anything else that you would like to say before we end this podcast?
Can I go to the bathroom? Is that good?
No, not yet. Okay, thank you to everyone who has watched this podcast. And don't forget that the Mythical Legends team will be at the Cryptid Conference UK on May 30th, 31st, and 1st of June. If you would like to actually be on the podcast, or if you would like to request where you would like us to use your fun fact, then you can email us at mythicallegends29@gmail.com. Don't forget, we'll have our upcoming documentary, My Bigfoot Life, coming up very, very soon. And we will keep you updated with all of the new things coming out about that. And if you would like to actually come on our podcast, then please reach out, because we would love to hear your encounters. And if you'd like to visit our website, it's at mythicallegends.co.uk. Thank you so much, guys. So it leaves me to say, keep searching, stay mythical, and most importantly, stay safe out there. Thank you, and good night.
Thank you for listening to the Mythical Legends podcast. For more information, check out our Facebook group. The truth is out there.